this video is to show you how you can create an equation of the line when you've got something like a linear regression. And then after that, I'm going to talk about how you can put some labels and a title on your graph and what kind of title you might want to do. Okay, so here's my great basic graph. I just created it. Now I'm going to customize it. In my customizing spot, the first thing I might want to do is to create a trend line. So here's my series. This is going to apply to, you can do all series, which is probably where it'll look like for you when you first open it, or you can do each individual part. So I'm going to do just the volume. In the volume, I'm going to add a trend line. You can see it added it. And whenever I do a trend line, the reason that you're going to want to do it is not just to create a pretty line, is because you actually want to know the equation of the line. So if you click on that, here we go, you can see the use equation, and I can see how it popped up right there. That's great. You also probably want to put in the r squared. Now the equation of the line is right here, and it's the y equals mx plus b, because it's a linear regression kind of line. And then the r squared actually tells you how good the line is, you could think of it. So notice how the line goes pretty much through a lot of the blue dots. An r squared value that's close to 1 means that the equation of the line is really going with the dots quite nicely. A r squared of 1 means it's 100% correlated. Every single dot is touching the line, you're perfect. Now I'm pretty close, so I give this like a 98% awesome, if you use that 0.98, which means that 98% of the time it is going directly with the data points that I have, which is a great looking line. I can add a trend line for my red one too if I wanted to. Put in a trend line. Get my equation for my label and r squared. Looking great. Now if you wanted to be able to put in some labels, that's a great place to go. Back in my chart axis titles is where I want to go there. In the chart axis title, this top part right here is where you're going to move yourself around. So chart title is the basic top title. Subtitle is always lovely. Horizontal title and vertical axis title. So let's go to the chart title. So far, the Google has guessed, do I want it volume and dividing? Well, a lot of times what I'm going to be using is kind of like the purpose of it. Like, why did I really even do this? We're going to be getting into things with kinetics using absorbance, so I might call this like that Beer's law graph. That sounds good. That's my basic one. I might want to put in a subtitle though, because it's a Beer's law graph for like what? For who? For what's it being used for? So in a Beer's law graph, you're going to be looking at not pennies in volume, but you're going to be looking at absorbance. Oops, that's not what. Absorbance. And you might want to be specific, like absorbance of bromine as a function of concentration. Or if you're going to be doing a lot of different Beer's law graphs, maybe you got to do Beer's law graph for bromine here. If you're looking at the concentration of bromine or versus something like iodine and things like that. So that's a way we can really have a chart title that's very specific. Just keeping it so broad doesn't help you see what's going on in the graph. So you need to be specific in your labels. If you notice how I used my words over here in the chart title, absorbance of bromine as a function of concentration. A lot of people do absorbance on Y and concentration on X. But if you use as a function of, it really tells you what's on Y and what's on X. Because you've heard before, Y is a function of X. We'll just replace those things. Y is absorbance as a function of X, concentration. Y is a function of X. That's a lot classier way of saying things instead of like absorbance versus concentration. The versus word, I'm not a big fan of it. Can you do it? Sure. But I don't think it really tells you what's on Y and what's on X. Not as specific as a function of. Okay. Other things you might want to add is your horizontal axis. Now clearly here my horizontal axis was really pennies. That's what I kind of graphed it as. So I could keep it as pennies. Going with my theme, assuming this is a Beer's law graph for bromine, I would look at concentration. You're always going to want to be using units, so something like molarity would be a great way to go. Put them in parentheses. My vertical axis, then I'm looking at absorbance. Assuming that I'm looking at a Beer's law graph again. Man, this word is hard to type. Absorbance doesn't really have any units, so I'm not going to put any units in there. But now I've created a title, a subtitle that really kind of tells you exactly what's going on in the graph, and I got an X and a Y. Looking pretty good.